Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is Craig Bowers. We are here to preview Purdue versus Maryland. Two teams coming off vastly different results in their last game. Purdue got stomped by Penn State, and Maryland absolutely wiped Ohio State. This is a very important game kind of for Purdue now. You can let kind of one fall early in the season. You can let two fall in this two-game stretch, but it makes it a little bit tougher. This is a game where Purdue needs to be able to bounce back. 12 o'clock tip Eastern time, Big Ten Network, Sunday, December 8th is the game. So should be a good one. We'll dive into Maryland and everything that you need to know about them for this upcoming great game. Craig, I'll throw it to you. How's it going? And what are kind of your overall thoughts for this game?
It's going well. We are a couple of days removed now from that Penn State game, and I think certainly we can all step back a little bit and remember Purdue's early Big Ten season struggles in previous years, and have hope that certainly things will turn around and not just look at that microcosm of a single game and try to make big proclamations off of that. With that said, we're looking at a Maryland team here that was actually picked to finish 10th in the preseason media poll in the Big Ten, but right now they sit at 8-1, coming off a major victory over Ohio State, 83-59. They rank 18th in KenPom right now. They're even higher in net. They actually rank 14th in the net right now. A team that gets it done on the defensive end again. I feel like we just keep repeating this, but a team that ranks 9th in KenPom in terms of total defensive efficiency, 8th in turnover percentage. They're averaging 16.8 defensive turnovers per game and doing a really good job holding their opponents to about 28.4% three-point shooting as a team on defense as well. And I think for me, Joe, is I just dig into this with this team. I feel like, we mentioned in the last preview show that like Purdue was going to be really excited when they got through this little stretch and got into Big Ten play and quit seeing these teams that rank like top 10 in defense or top 10 in steals, top 10 in turnovers. But another team that brings a lot of defensive pressure. They do it in a different way than what we just saw from Penn State. But at the same time, this is not the Maryland team that I think Purdue fans have kind of gotten accustomed to over the last few years, where they maybe have one really skilled, dominant scoring guard, an athletic big, and then a lot of athletic pieces around them that maybe aren't the most skilled. There's a lot of skill on this team. This team has shooters, it has multiple guys that can get downhill and go to the rim. And then they've got an absolute superstar, likely lottery pick, in Derek Queen, who's going to be playing the 4 spot at 6'9". I don't know what he is weight wise, 200 and something,
250.
250 at the 4 spot. So if people were hoping for like a get right game at Mackey after that Penn State, you may not want to listen to the rest of this preview show because Maryland is going to present a challenge when they come into Mackey.
Yeah, Maryland has played like one of the best teams in Big Ten all season. Like if you're going to look at purely results from this year, they're probably like third, fourth, somewhere in that area. Haven't played the toughest teams, right? Ohio State's by far the best team that they've beat. Barely lost at home to versus Marquette. But I do think there is something to like, yes, they played a very weak non-conference schedule, but they dominated it. And I do think there is at least something to that of like, hey, this is probably a sign that at minimum they're a solid team, right? If you go back to even last year, they struggled in the non-conference and they dropped a few games and some games were close. That's not been the case this year. And like you said, I really, really liked what Willard did in the portal. We'll get into the specific players, but just kind of got players that are Maryland type dudes and filled the holes that they needed. Derek Queen's elite. Julian Reese is a veteran in the Big Ten, and they give an interesting duo as two big men that not like overly tall, but they're both just solidly built. And it's gonna like maybe we just get straight into it of like how does Purdue, specifically starting TKR, we're assuming at the 5, how do they go about guarding this duo? I assume you put TKR on Reese and Heidi on Queen, and you just double the post every single time, probably.
Yeah, I guess we're just going to jump right into that topic, huh, Joe? I thought we'd maybe ease up to it a little bit, but
Feels like the biggest
yeah,
thing.
No, yeah, it is, and that to me, the Penn State game, we talked about the fact that this was going to be the first time that lineup with TKR at the 5 had to face like an athletic, physical 7-footer in the post. To me, this is the first game since they've gone to that. Really, maybe the first team. Well, Alabama, but um, the first game since they've significantly leaned into that TKR at the 5, they're going to have to face a team that has 2 bigs. Queen is 6'10". Reese is only listed at 6'9".
Yeah.
Huh. 6'9", 6'10", but physical, big physical 6'9", 6'10" guys that want to get dirty in the post, can get dirty in the post. And Maryland's going to run their offense through them. They are number 1 and number 3 on their teams in terms of scoring at 16.6 points and 13 points a game. This is it's another challenge to see how this lineup can play against teams with quality post players. It's different than the Penn State one, but to me, this is the first one that's really, really going to challenge Cam, because even in that Alabama game, and I mentioned it leading into that game, some of Alabama's bigs don't play like they're big. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not really playing in the post necessarily. Both of these guys can. And Queen can also take you off the dribble. He can face up and shoot an 18-footer. There's not a whole lot he can't do other than shoot threes, really. It's going to be a challenge. And I don't know that we need to really it's going to be interesting to see if that advantage is significant early, if Painter goes to the bench fast and thinks he has to do something else.
Yeah, because I think physicality, size-wise, like, I'm not too concerned with TKR against Julian Reese. Not that that's not a tough matchup, because it is, but it's not like one where, like, Yannick Niederhauser was a 7-foot, 260-pound dude that moved well. Like, that's a physically imposing matchup for TKR. I don't think Reese is that. Reese is obviously still just very good at basketball. But yeah, it's that Queen matchup of, like, Queen will just post up Heidi, I assume, a lot, or get off that one dribble into the post up type thing. If you're Purdue, you want Queen taking any and all jumpers. He obviously he hasn't been able to shoot threes. He didn't shoot threes really in high school either. I think he was like 0 for 3, if I'm remembering correctly. He's 0 for 10 right now. I'm pulling up his shot chart right now. I mean, yeah, he can knock down a mid range. He's 6 for 10 from like above the elbow pull ups. Basically, all of his shots are at the rim though. 51 of his shots are at the rim, and he's taken like what, basically 92 on the year. So a whole lot of them are coming at the rim. He gets fouled a good bit. Can knock down free throws, which is the surprising thing that it doesn't translate at all to threes. But the other thing that makes Queen so tough is he can pass. Like,
Yeah.
he's
2.6 assists a game.
Yeah, and it's just like some of the passes he can make, like, truly no other big man in the Big Ten can make. And some of it was more just high school, where some of those passes really came through. Like, I remember one of the Montverde games, I think he came off of a screen with the ball and threw a cross court skip, left hand on the move directly to the corner in pocket. And so that's where Purdue has to double him, right? Heidi's not going to live one-on-one against him in the post. You double him. Maryland's not an elite shooting team, but they got shooters out there. And specifically, their starting lineup will feature 3 shooters surrounding him, and Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice, and Selden Miguel. And so that's where you kind of have to pick your poison of, can you just live with the jumper? Hey, it's in Mackey. Maybe they're not going to shoot well on the road. Make him prove it type thing. I don't know. It gets tough because you can't let Queen feast, but at the same time, what makes this Maryland team different is they have dudes on the perimeter that can beat you. Like, they're not
Yeah.
elite shooters, maybe Gillespie, but they'll knock ones down.
Yeah, and to that point with Gillespie, Rice, and Miguel, you're 3 guys that are all shooting over 35% that take anywhere from 4.2 to 5.7 threes a game. That's enough.
Yeah.
Like that's enough shooting, especially when you're surrounding those 2 really good post players. I so when we prep for these, I put a spreadsheet together that has all of their statistical data across the board, Joe, and you've seen it. Like I highlight in yellow the good stuff, I put in red the bad stuff. My Dairy Queen row is just like yellow all the way across,
Yeah.
other than the 3-point being at 0%. But I mean, 61% on the year field goal percentage, 68% from two, 77% free throws, 8.3 rebounds a game, 2.6 assists, 1.2 steals, one block, only 1.8 turnovers a game, and 16.6 points a game. Like,
Yep.
that's a dog.
He's good.
And you freak me out. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. So I texted you this morning because it's really the first time I watched Queen, and I said, "Man," I said he comps to me a little bit to Julius Randle as an NBA comp. And then your answer to me like made my eyes get real big. What'd you tell me?
So I said Jokic, but it's like it's the more I thought about it, it's that I think if you were to translate maybe not current day Jokic passing, but like a couple years ago Jokic passing to a college player, I think it looks a lot like Derek Queen. Now, Derek Queen can't shoot the ball anywhere close to what Jokic does, and he maybe isn't quite comfortable handling the ball. So I think because the more I thought about it, I think like that early career Julius Randle, where Randle didn't shoot threes at all, like that is
Right.
I think that's a pretty good comp. He's just like, but I don't know, because he's like a post man that can handle the ball if needed.
Yeah, I
And
mean, in that Ohio State game and the Marquette game, both. I mean, he took guys off the bounce a few
yeah,
different times. I was just blown away. Really, really impressed by him in general. And then, like you said, around that, you have three guards, all that come from the transfer portal. Gillespie comes from Belmont, Rice comes from Virginia Tech, and Miguel from South Florida, who bring different things. And Gillespie as a primary point guard here, moving up a level, obviously from Belmont to the Big Ten, but watching him against Marquette and watching him against Ohio State, to me, it certainly translate. A guy that's extremely shifty with the ball in his hand. The dude he took a few like 25, 26 footers and hit some of them. I think a guy that's just extremely skilled that may give some of our guards trouble just in terms of trying to keep him in front.
yeah, and what's like one of the maybe even the best thing about Gillespie, and would like to see it a little need to see it a little bit more, I guess, against Big Ten competition to fully buy in. But like I'm trying to remember, but last year he shot like 70 something percent at the rim. It was something insane where he's 6'1", and I guess yes, it was at Belmont, but like he shot insanely well at the rim, and that's held this year. I think he's 14 to 17 at the rim right now on the season. Like this is a dude that can get downhill, and he can get downhill quick. He is shifty. You still have to respect the three ball because he shoots that well. He's just really good all around point guard. He can facilitate some quick hands defensively. He fits in what they want to do there. I mean, against Ohio State, I know it's a blowout. He put up 23 points, 4 assists. He scored double figures all but 2 games, and those 2 games were blowouts that he didn't play more than 23 minutes. He can kind of just do a bit of everything, and that's what Willard wants, I think, from his point guard. And yeah, he fits in really, really well.
And then when you kind of turn and look at Rice and Miguel, early in the season they were starting Deshaun Harris-Smith off the bench. Really athletic guy. Everybody watched him play last year in the league. Not a shooter. I think in that Marquette game, it was really apparent that they didn't have enough shooting on the floor. Rice eventually comes into the starting lineup, starts the last 5. Another guy, he's shooting, like I said, 35% from 3 on 5.7 attempts per game. But a guy that can also get downhill some. Maybe not to the level that Gillespie can, but certainly does. And then with Miguel from South Florida, 37% from 3 on the year on 4.2 attempts per game. He took a couple of deep threes in that Ohio State game. I think between those 3, he's a little bit more of an outside shooter rather than get downhill guy, right?
Yeah, I would probably say so, especially compared to uh, Gillespie for sure.
Gillespie.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess what's your take on those 2 guys?
they're good. I liked Rice playing this well this quickly surprised me a bit. I really like Selden Miguel when I watched the film this summer, but they're guys that again fit in pretty well, switchability defensively, maybe not the quickest hands and forced turnovers and all that, but just can kind of do what they need to do defensively. I think they're positive defenders, can shoot the ball well, and then I trust Rice especially. I trust off the dribble, getting downhill. Miguel feels more 3-and-D ish type wing to me, but yeah, I mean I think they're really good complements to Gillespie, where they don't need the ball in their hands, but they also can do stuff if they need it, right? Like in this offensive lineup, Rice and Miguel are their fourth and fifth options, whichever you want to put fourth and fifth. Those are really, really good fourth and fifth options to have.
Yeah, 100%. And talking about the turnovers there, this Maryland team has 7 guys that are basically averaging a turnover a game. A couple of them just a little bit less. A couple of them close to. Oh, I'm sorry, my word. I was looking at the actual turnovers, not forced turnovers. My bad.
Okay.
That would have been a mistake, Joe. But like you said, a team with a ton of switchability, a team that's going to pressure the ball. We'll get more to just what Maryland will do defensively in a second. But there's a couple guys we haven't really hit on much yet. I don't know how much you want to. And we kind of mentioned Reese, but didn't really talk much about him. And then Deshaun Harris-Smith and is it Gapari or Gapar? Gapare. Okay. So any of those 3 that you want to kind of highlight at all?
I mean, Reese, I don't think we need to talk about too much just because he is so familiar.
It feels like he's been here for 7 years.
Yeah, I don't even think he's not even a COVID year guy.
It feels like it though.
Yeah. Very good shot blocker, wiry around the rim, going to get to the left-hand post hook. He's shooting the free throws way, way better this year. He is not a liability at the free throw line like he has been throughout really most of his career. Not going to shoot the ball from the perimeter, but very crafty, very skilled inside, very good rebounder as well. That's got, just your prototypical, if you're prototypical good Big Ten big man, it's Julian Reese. That's just kind of who he is. Harris-Smith, athletic driver, can't shoot the ball, good defender. I like his role off the bench more, where he's just seventh-ish man and not having to play tons of minutes. He's somebody you just have to play for the drive, and you live with him shooting. If he knocks one down, oh well. Gapari has been the one that's I was curious to see who emerged out of him and Geronimo. And it's been him. I don't know if Geronimo hasn't played in 4 games. I don't know if he's been hurt or not, so that could factor in too. But he's this athletic 4-man that really, really, really good defender. Once gets to the rim really, really well, and then on a extremely small sample size this year, he's shooting well. He has not shot well in his entire career, so I don't know if that holds. That still feels like you kind of wait and you let him take a couple and you just kind of see what happens. And if he drills 2, then you adjust. But off the bench, he's going to bring a ton of athleticism at that 4 spot at 6'9", and that makes him a really good bench player.
Yeah. And yeah, I think all 3 of those guys, obviously Reese is a major central piece as the 3rd leading scorer. I just didn't think we'd really expanded on him much, is because we were so enamored with talking about Derek Queen between that pairing early on. But 2 other guys there that bring some bench pieces. When you look at the bench minutes that they play, it appears that they play a decent amount of bench minutes, but in those kind of bigger matchups, it did look like they tightened up and that rotation a little bit and kind of lean pretty heavy on those 7 guys. I would assume that would be similar towards the Purdue game as we kind of maybe transition. Go ahead.
The only other one would be Jalen Young. Jay Young. He's the backup point guard. Nothing too flashy. Can knock down a shot. Can get downhill. There's a scenario where he doesn't play much minutes. There's a scenario where he can get up to 15, 20 minutes. I don't think he's far from the top of the scouting report, but just somebody you have to throw out there of hey, he can kind of run the show a bit when Gillespie's off the floor.
Right. And we got to mention those guys because that's our CJ Cox. And sometimes CJ comes in and scores 12 points. And 6
True.
minutes. So, um, I guess as we kind of switch and talk about, I mean, we've kind of talked about what Maryland's going to try to do offensively, play through their two bigs, but have guards that can shoot from outside and skill that surrounds them and can get downhill, especially with Gillespie and finish at the rim. As we kind of look defensively here, a team that is likely going to hedge up high right on that pick and roll against Braden and the bigs.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, they're going to do that at times. Reese, maybe like they'll mix in drop coverage, but just given their defense, they have the ability to be really versatile. I think their base coverage is probably going to be hedging, especially just I assume they're going to watch the Purdue Penn State game and be like, "Huh, that kind of is interesting." But they have shown that they can switch 5 ways if they need to at times. They've shown that they can play drop coverage with Reese and or Queen. And so it's going to be a game where I think Braden really has to just react to what's there. And I think at times, like, he can go into a play or a pick and roll just like expecting the coverage and being like, okay, I'm going to get to this because that's there. I think almost just I don't want to say freer. I don't want to say he needs to play freer, but like kind of, I guess, of just react to what's there. Maryland will mix it up, and they're going to try to pressure the ball. They're going to press a good bit when they can. They'll mix in that 2-3 zone where it goes man to man about halfway through the possession just to really slow teams down and make you grind out possessions. That's why they're one of the slowest. They've always been, or under Willard, they're always have been one of the slowest defensive teams. So it's kind of this mix. They force a lot of turnovers. I am curious if that is inflated a bit by just competition level. Like I don't think their Penn State aggression or even last year aggressive for Maryland, but like they still very easily can rack up turnovers, if that makes sense. Rack up forced turnovers.
Yeah, and have to this point so far in the season. One of the things that jumped out to me as I was watching him is like if you allow a baseline to be a third defender, sideline, baseline, half court line, they jump and trap that really fast, and
Yeah.
I saw quite a few turnovers against Ohio State created from that. Just something you're gonna have to watch against this team. You don't want to get buried in a corner. You don't want to give yourself a spot where you naturally create a third defender that they can jump to ball on. I guess as we kind of turn then and talk about um, how Purdue can attack Maryland or what Purdue needs to do to be successful against Maryland. I guess from the offensive side of things, what do you think has to happen?
I mean, it's kind of the same for every game, or similar for every game for me at this point. Like, this is a matchup that Reese is very good. I think TKR can go at him. Like, I don't think Reese is like automatic shutdown against TKR. TKR has to be good. He has to be controlled. He has to be stronger with the ball. I know Penn State's phenomenal at swiping the ball away, but Maryland's going to do similar stuff of try to swipe in and get him going. I don't think they double the post that much, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe a little bit here and there, but especially if when they do go Queen at the 5 and TKR's on him, like if he can get Queen in foul trouble, that's big. The other thing, like, and I know this is very simple, but Purdue has to just knock down shots. Like they have to knock down threes. They end up 38% because CJ Cox went crazy at the end from 3, but like that Penn State game could have had the potential to switch if Purdue knocked down some early open jumpers. I think that's going to be, especially if Maryland's in hedged, like I trust Brain Smith in this matchup enough to be able to get open looks for others. Just kind of got to be able to knock them down, be smarter with the ball of, hey, like just kind of put up shots. Maybe don't try to drive against this length and athleticism. But yeah, like I think it's going to start with TKR, and then from there it kind of spreads out to. I do think Purdue should have the 3-point advantage.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be a confidence level and it's in Mackey, right? So it's always different when it's in Mackey, but you trust that jumper, take that jumper against these teams that have that extra length and athleticism don't try to force it, right? I felt like, especially early in that game, there were too many times where Purdue tried to force it and tried to get to the rim. And I understand that to a degree, because when you play a team that's really, really aggressive on defense, if you're aggressive back on that, a lot of times you can start drawing fouls, and they did. It just didn't really matter in that Penn State game. So I get the thought process and the premise of that. But if you've got an open, there's enough skilled shooters on this Purdue team that if you've got an open 15-footer, 18-footer 3-point shot, they need to take it and take it with confidence, whether that's Cam, whether that's Fletch, whether that's CJ, whoever it may be, especially Braden, be aggressive and hunt early. So I'm 100% with you there. I think offensive rebounding may be tough in this game. It's nice to look at that and say maybe they can get the advantage. I don't know, just with Reese and Queen and how well both of those two guys rebound, whether that's going to be something that they can really get an advantage in, but at least hold your own from an offensive rebounding standpoint and get some second chance points.
Yeah. And the other thing is the obvious is, hey, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Don't turn the ball over on 33% of your possessions would be great too. But it's obviously in a jokey tone, but like it is true, because this Maryland offense is much miles better than last year. This Maryland offense is probably still at their best when they're in transition, though, and when they can get downhill and use some of their guards and wings and just get there, right? So their press can turn into, you can't let Maryland's press turn into quick 4 points or something like that in when the game is in the balance type thing.
And
I know that's the obvious answer, but it is just very true.
Well, and from that turnover standpoint, we talk about that from an offensive standpoint of that's, missed possessions, times you don't get to put a shot up and don't even have a chance at an offensive rebound. But it's also just incredibly important from a defensive standpoint, because live ball turnovers and, the last couple of years, even when they would have high turnover games, a lot of them weren't live ball. Where a team could really take off and get fast break points. It might be a travel in the post, offensive foul, that sort of thing. Against Penn State, it was a lot of live ball turnovers that led to a lot of fast break points. So not turning the ball over also helps increase your defensive efficiency. Obviously, from a defensive standpoint, I think for me, the matchup is Queen Cam or Queen whoever's going to be guarding Queen. But outside of that, what do you think Purdue? Well, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw a second thing in there too. I think keeping Gillespie out of the paint and keeping him in front defensively, and then that matchup of Queen and Cam, to me, are the two biggest things. I guess what jumps out to you?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think it starts with figuring out how you want to attack or go against Queen, right? Whether it is just Heidi, it's not going to be Heidi one-on-one. That much I'm confident in. But how much is Heidi at the 4? Do you size up to go, first at the 5 with TK at the 4, and then you can match some size there. On the other end, though, can you? And this is going back to offense, but can Heidi make Queen pay at all? Where I don't think Queen's not the quickest foot. Can Heidi catch and rip and go against him and get downhill and get to the rim? So there is that part too, I understand. But how much does Purdue play the two bigs? How much does Purdue play Heidi at the 4 and just live with results? And then from there, yeah, keeping Gillespie out, I assume Colvin's going to get that matchup. And then you throw probably Lawyer on Miguel and Smith on Rodney Rice would be my guess to start.
Yeah.
This could be a bigger Jakari and or CJ game, though. The Maryland guards aren't overly big. And I think really Harris and Cox both, not that they're going to shut down Gillespie by any means. I think Gillespie's too good to say that, but they feel built to have a decent chance of being able to slow him down, in my opinion. Slow him down enough.
Right. I agree as well. And I'm with you on the Jakari CJ side of things, because, when we talk that Penn State matchup and we're like, well, who's going to guard Ace? And if Miles is guarding Ace, then what are we putting Braden on a guy that's 5 inches taller or whatever? There was a lot of length and size in Penn State's wings, and it's not quite there with this Maryland team. So I do like this in terms of the backcourt matchup. I do like this better as a defensive matchup, certainly than the Penn State game. And also for however good Gillespie is, he's not ace, right? In my
No,
mind.
no,
So I think I haven't seen a line on this game yet. Have you anywhere?
not like a book. Ken Palm has it at 4.
Us favored by 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured as I was just kind of scrolling through, I thought I saw one that had it. Oh, Ken Palm has us favored by 4. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it from an official book yet, but I was flipping through. I thought I saw something that actually had Maryland favored, which I thought would be absolutely wild if Maryland was favored in this game with Purdue playing at home. I just, as we look, we talked about after that Penn State game, team statistics in terms of Purdue not winning the rebounding battle, Purdue losing the free throw battle, Penn State being, positive on us relative to the 3-point percentage, although not by much because of CJ at the end, and then also losing the turnover battle and the fast break point battle. That obviously can't happen and get a win in this game. Purdue's got to find their areas where they can win from a team battle, whether that's rebounding, whether that's getting to the free throw line. Reese in the past at times has had foul issues. He's not done that near as much this year. I'm sure Queen being in there as well kind of helps take a little bit of that pressure off of him. Any other big takeaways from you that you think has to happen going into this game for Purdue to win?
Purdue just has to bounce back. Like it cannot linger into 2 games. You can afford, and the final score being only 11-point difference does help the metrics and all that. But right, you get absolutely stomped. It's probably going to happen once a year at minimum, especially with a team like this. It might even happen once more this year, but you can't let that linger into 2 games. And now this becomes this can't be a slow start where Maryland jumps out to a 12-2 lead and you're playing in the hole right away. Can they come back from that? Absolutely. But I think there is a chance. I think ultimately this game's close, but I think there's a chance where Purdue can have one of those just hey, we're back in Mackey. We just lost. We're going to hit our first 6 threes. It's going to be 20-6 before you know it. And I'm not saying they have to do that, but something closer to that would just be good to see and just get back to Purdue basketball.
Yeah, and I think as we came into the stretch of these 2 Big Ten games that are tough matchups, and then Texas A&M and Auburn, I think we both said Purdue needs to at least go 2-2 through this stretch, right?
Yeah.
And if that's going to happen, they likely need this game because those next 2 games in semi-neutral sites, with Auburn being more of a semi-away game and A&M being more of a semi-home game, are going to be tough battles and going to be tough matchups too. And you at least want to come through that and then have your 1 bye game left to go into Big Ten season, maybe with 3 losses. It'd be great if they could win all 3 of the next 3. I don't know how confident I am in that personally. Any other thoughts you got before we wrap this? We went 33 minutes.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
These are supposed to be short preview shows, Joe.
We haven't done
failed.
that yet. Yeah. So, all right. We will be.
Wait. We have to congratulate Purdue volleyball.
Oh, true.
For making it right to the next round, to the Sweet 16. Most likely we'll play Louisville in Louisville. If Louisville wins today, who would be the number 1 seed in that region? Guys, Louisville is like a 2.5-hour drive from here. Buy tickets, make that place gold and black. Go down and support Purdue volleyball women. We love you guys and hope the best for you as you head into the rest of your postseason. Yep.
Shout out Purdue volleyball. Get the sweep yesterday. So that'll be going on. A couple really big games coming up for Purdue. It's honestly going to be a pretty fun just couple weeks for Purdue, at least basketball and volleyball. But yeah, 12 o'clock Eastern time, Big Ten Network, Purdue versus Maryland in Mackey Arena. We will be live after the game. Don't know if it'll be right after. We might do presser. We'll see what happens. But make sure to subscribe. If you turn on the bell notification, you'll get notified as soon as we do go live. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will catch you all then.